I like to start with the same kind of shout outs that we start out with every week. We just reached like 800 participants for this little webinar or podcast. I'm not technically proficient enough to know the difference. I call it a podcast just because that sounds cool. Um, but I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, so maybe this is more of a webinar. I don't know. But you can watch it online, you can watch it on podcast outlets or listen to it something. You have access to it somewhere out there on the interwebs. But I would like to draw your attention to our Facebook Evidence Management Community Forum. This is something that we started back during the apocalypse of the pandemic, just to give people a private place and a forum for evidence managers and evidence custodians to discuss things and connect. That's still going strong. I know that James pays a lot more attention to that than I probably do, but we try to monitor that as much as possible and really maybe facilitate some conversations where we can or provide insight or input. But really the benefit is just having a place to talk to other people that do what you do and work in the same kind of industry and environment that you work in and just give you a chance to connect. There are a lot of experts out there, but there's nothing quite like having someone that is in your shoes help you deal with problems that you are currently dealing with. So I start out with that, and I also want to figure out my screen here. Also, kind of make a mention and a shout out to Tracker Products. They keep the lights on for us, and that partnership has been going strong now for 3 years. They are an evidence management software system. If you want to learn more about them, go to trackerproducts.com. But those are the only two ads that we currently air. So I'm Shawn Henderson. I'm hoping that James will hop on here in a little bit, but he is working somewhere in an evidence vault near you. If he doesn't, we'll just go ahead and get started. And I realize that the camera's right here, so maybe I should look more here, but that's weird. So, uh, what are we talking about today? I know that we didn't do a big build up or give you a lot of information. We were gone the last 2 weeks. I think we postponed this episode, not necessarily because we were in critical planning stages, but because we have been busy. We have been crazy busy the last few weeks with a lot of different projects, and we will continue to be busy throughout the end of the year. In fact, our next episode will be in December because I'm going to be on the road for about the next 4 weeks doing various projects. It was really easy to do a podcast or a webinar when you were sitting in your office by yourself and there was no one else in the world doing anything. But now that the real world is beginning to catch up to us, we find ourselves on the road a lot more often doing training, doing consulting projects. So we just haven't been around. And we will try to continue this as long as we can and as long as people are paying attention. It's fun for us and hopefully it's interesting or at least informative for you. That's why we do it because we think it makes sense and we hope it helps somebody. So, all that being said, if you want to find out more about our organization, Evidence Management Institute, you can find us at evidencemanagement.com and on with the show. So, today we're calling this episode 100 Reasons Not to Do It, but not one good one. And this is going to be a little bit of a soapbox, but I'm going to try to continue to implore people to participate in the one thing that will make a difference in the culture of evidence management in our industry more than any other thing. And I can't underscore the importance of this enough. But basically, I'm going to hop up on a soapbox, figuratively, not literally, and encourage you to get engaged if you're not already engaged in what I think is the most important thing that an evidence custodian can participate in, short of intake and disposition. The one thing that can help move us forward as an industry and help us uh, change the culture around evidence for everyone. And I think everyone will benefit if we can grab onto that. So, what are we talking about? It's a soapbox and some mixed bags. We're going to turn the page on 2021 Monday or Tuesday or someday in the next week. Uh, I'm not well versed in calendars, but we're going to be in November. And November means Thanksgiving and then Christmas and then 2022. And we've wrapped up our training schedule here at EMI for 2021, and we're busy getting started and planning and preparing for 2022. But as we do that, I want to kind of end the year or almost end the year with a little bit of a clarion call and talk about some things that we can do to move forward so we can look forward to 2022 and turn the page. We'll also do a bit of a challenge today for those of you that are online or listening later. Uh, I guess probably not so much for those listening later, but I'm going to call it a random acts of kindness challenge. We'll explain that more a little further. And then the segment, for lack of a better word, is the third segment, or the third thing that we want to kind of accomplish today is answer some questions, take questions from you. This could be the shortest segment that we've ever aired if no one asks questions, but we're calling it everything you never wanted to know about evidence. So be thinking while I'm chatting in your ear about maybe some questions that you've always wanted to ask, either about what we do at EMI, but more specifically, probably about evidence management in general. And we will try to answer those questions. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we're doing next time on the Evidence Show. So, without any further ado, that's a long introduction. Let's talk about some stuff. So, I do this periodically. I get up on a soapbox with respect to one issue frequently. And I do it because I think it's the one thing that's going to make a difference for evidence custodians in the 34 states where, 36 states where this kind of association doesn't exist. I'm talking about a state association. And to my knowledge, and I try to keep track of these things, there are 14, if I'm doing my math right, yeah, 7 and 7, 14 evidence associations, property evidence, evidence management, you name it, 14 state associations throughout our nation. And for those of you that are counting at home, 14, let's see, let's do the math. 50 minus 14, yeah, that's 36. Not including DC or Puerto Rico or Guam or especially the Caribbean. If you're in the Caribbean, which I don't think anyone is, we would love to help start something there of any sort. Doesn't even have to be related to evidence, but we'll be there. That's been one of our pushes for the last couple of years. We started with 20 in 2020, and then 2020 just went nowhere. Nobody went anywhere. So we kind of dusted it off and we added the numbers up, 21 and 2021. Our goal is to have at least 21 evidence associations in the United States in the calendar year 2021. Now it is November in a week. We might not make it, and that's okay. I would rather fail forward if we can find one state uh, at a time and help them kind of create an association. I think it magnifies the impact of evidence custodians and the reach that we can have as an industry. It is worth the time. It is worth the investment. So one of the things that we're going to spend a little bit of time today on is just encouraging people to participate at the state level in a state association. If you're in one of these states, and I'm talking about California, Florida, Texas, Illinois, New Mexico, Colorado, Arizona, Missouri, Minnesota, Virginia, North Carolina, New Mexico, Colorado, or Oregon. If you're in one of those states, you are in a fortunate minority in our country because you have a state association that you could belong to, that you could participate in, that will help you do your job, will help you be better at your job. Um, I have visited with representatives or been to many of these associations, have relationships with many of these associations. Uh, And I just there is no substitute for that kind of organization, and that's why we put energy into that, and why we want to see more of that than less. I had a conversation this morning just about this same thing, and it really is the thing that will make a difference in our industry if we can get more participation. So 21 and 2021, we're going to turn the page on that, and that will soon become 22 in 2022. Now, it's okay if we don't make it to 22 in 2022, because guess what? In 2023, we can just set it at 23. I would love to create or help create or facilitate just one. I'm more than happy to exceed our goal. If we have people out there in, you know, 8 different states that aren't represented and you want to start one in 2022, let's go for it. We can do 23 in 2022. We can even do 27. Uh, we can be anywhere between 1 and 36 and we'll be happy. But I would love to see before we're finished with our work at EMI, whenever that is, uh, that that the presence of state associations has grown, and we would love to contribute somehow, some way to that growth. Our approach so far to facilitate or encourage that growth has been kind of haphazard. We've just kind of thrown it out there as an idea. We helped Missouri create a foundation, and that's a long process. I mean, it's not an easy feat. So we're not calling you to something that is simple. We're calling you to something that is a challenge, and will there will be some disappointment along the way, but it is worth it, I promise you. So this year we're going to try to be at EMI a little more intentional, and we are going to partner with anybody that we can to help create and facilitate these types of organizations at the state level. There are a couple of states that have been on my radar for the last year and a half. I've had people come from Indiana and Ohio and express an interest in starting an association. I've had the same kind of interest in Oklahoma. So those are going to be the first 3 targets for the end of 2021 or the beginning of 2022. We would love to find folks in there in those 3 states. We're just calling you out by name right now: Indiana, Ohio, and Oklahoma. Uh, let's start somewhere, and we might as well start there. So before I start foaming at the mouth or running at the mouth too much, I also want to say if you're in one of the 14 states with a state association, by all means, participate in that state association. And by participate, I mean be involved. Go to the conferences, go to the training, try to work, volunteer for the board, do something, because it matters that much to our long term success as an industry. I know a lot of the folks running these organizations. I was on the board of directors at Tape It years and years ago, and I was on the board of another, IAPE for a while. Uh, it takes a lot of work to pull these types of things off, especially state associations that are running on volunteer hours and volunteer resources. They need your help. They need you to pitch in. So even if you're in a state with an association, I promise you that they can use your help. I'll tell you something. Most of these state associations are run by people that have been running the show since the beginning. It is really difficult to find people interested in involving themselves at a state association for any length of time. I mean, you know as well as I do, people get transferred in and out of these jobs all the time, but that doesn't mean that we don't need someone to help and someone to participate. So again, that's a bit of a soapbox. I'm okay with that because I believe that it's important. Um, I do want to talk about what we do really quick, and what we will do, what EMI will do to help you if you're in one of those states out there, one of those 36 states where you don't have an association, and you're sitting there thinking to yourself, man, I wish we had something like that in our state. Well, you can. Uh, but it's going to require work, and it's going to require you. At EMI, we've got a program where we will help facilitate setting up these organizations. We do it because we think it's the right thing to do. We don't want to be involved in your association. We don't want to run your association. We don't want to have, other than a relationship, we don't want to, we want zero control. But we feel so strongly about this, James and I both, that this is something that has to happen if things are ever going to change. So, what we do as an organization is we try to identify people in states. I got a letter, an email from Fort Wayne, Indiana. I've got another one from Lawrenceburg. I've got people in the state of Indiana that want to get together somewhere and create a state association. They don't know each other. So our first goal, the first thing that we'll do is we'll identify folks and start connecting them. Uh, the second thing we do is we try to host an event to where we get these people connected in a room where they're actual human beings meeting face to face. And then we will cast kind of what our vision is for state associations, and then we'll support, we'll help you develop, we'll help you create bylaws, we'll help you to create an organizational structure, we'll help you develop your own board of directors that are in charge of your organization exclusively. But then probably the thing that is most difficult for a new organization getting off the ground is finding the finances. And I've been the fortunate beneficiary of a partnership that keeps the lights on for me, and we try to pay that forward. And we will do the same for your association. We will pay to get you filed as an official entity with the state. We will pay attorney fees to get you legal as a 501c3 educational not for profit organization with the IRS. And then it's up to you to make it successful. We'll support you in any way we can, but we feel so strongly about this. I don't feel like I can say it too often. Uh, so that's kind of that's our goal, especially moving into 2022. Now that's not all we do because we do have to, uh, you know, pay for stuff so we can do stuff because stuff is good. So we're still doing live humanoid training in 2022. James and I will be meeting next week, and we're going to try to finalize our 2022 schedule. And we've already got some places in California and Florida, a couple places in the Midwest. We'd love to go back to Colorado. Uh, Nothing is on the or off the table right now, but we're trying to do just a set of dates and focus on those so that we can release those in our at our December evidence show and begin marketing those classes and getting people in classes. There is a way that you can combine these two. If you're looking at starting an association, one of the easy things to do, most of them start somewhere. And that somewhere is usually where a group of people are gathered from the same area or region. Uh, that's how uh, Colleen Dean in Texas. You probably don't know her. She's a legend here in Texas. She's like the Nolan Ryan of tape it. So she was in a class, an evidence class, somewhere in the vast state of Texas and sitting around with other people. And she had this idea, hey, why don't we start an association? And she did. And she's retired now. Uh, but it starts with somebody and it starts with somewhere. And it can often start in a class where there are other people sitting around thinking, man, wouldn't it be cool if we had our own little association? So we're going to start doing training. Our calendar next year will run almost year round with training events. We're trying to spread things out. But if you're interested in maybe hosting a class, reach out. We'd love to have you, and we would love for you to be there. We're also going to, and this is top secret, and I see James is on, but he's not. He's probably just listening. Uh, but we're going to roll out something completely different and new in 22 with respect to training. I don't think that there is going to be an experience like it anywhere in the known universe, and it's all James's idea. One of the things I love about working with James is he has got a lot of great ideas. I have three, and I've had three for the last 17 years. James has got a lot of them, and we're going to start making those come to fruition. And we do have, okay, uh, okay, well, I just read a question. I probably shouldn't have done that. That was poor form. So I didn't have a stroke or, you know, some other kind of malfunction. But I did derail myself from my own line of reasoning. So that's it. Training is coming back. We're looking forward to 2022. I've loved being in person, doing live training with humanoids. There's no substitute for state associations, and there's no substitute for live in person training. Uh, Getting people in a room where they can talk to one another and solve their problems. I mean, most of the value, most of the benefit of a live training experience are the interactions and the questions and the follow up questions that you have as a result of people being in the room, working in the same geographic location, dealing with the same things. It's just fun. It's a lot of fun. Um, but James and I are weird. We think that's fun. We think doing, talking about evidence tape is fun. So maybe our view of fun is different than yours, but we would love to see you in a class. Would love to have you out to one of our classes in 2022. We're not going to talk about that too much. If I can forward this screen. So, our challenge for today, and again, we might wrap up this entire episode in the next 4 minutes because really, I just want to give you a challenge. I want to throw out a challenge, and there are several ways that you can fulfill it. Uh, but first, I have to tell you a closely guarded secret here at EMI Studios. You've seen pretty much the same backdrop and actually the same shirt since March of 2021. You may not have gone back and watched past episodes, but I think I've had the same starched and ironed shirt hanging on a hook on my uh, office door for about the last 8 or 9 months. Um, and it's clean. It's been clean. There's no issues with that. But it does kind of hide a very closely guarded secret here at the studio. And I call it a studio because that sounds cool. But yeah, I normally don't dress like this. When I retired from the police department, I made three commitments. One, I'm only going to shave when I want to shave. Now, I'm shaving a little bit of the beard off right now because I'm going to Mexico in a couple of weeks and I want to watch fish. And you can't really do that with a big bushy beard. But I realized this homeless look doesn't really translate well to a law enforcement audience. So I try to dress as professionally as I can, and this shirt was one of those things. But it's not what I normally wear. And I also was kind of curious. There's this tree falling in the forest concept that I wanted to explore. I know that there are people online because I can see the names of the people that are online now. I know that people might watch this later, but you're always kind of curious. Are they really watching? Or are they really paying attention? I know that some people are, but when you're talking to a screen, you get this Ricky Bobby effect. You don't know what to do with your hands, and you don't know if anyone's really paying attention. So we're going to throw a challenge out there. Um, and that challenge is, well, let me tell you what you win. Something ridiculously insignificant. Something so insignificant so as not probably to be worth your time, but that's why it still makes this thing a random act of kindness. Uh, I would like to do, and I wouldn't like to do, I would like to do an episode the way I normally dress for work. It would be freeing and comfortable for me. And you could see what I actually look like on a work day without this one single shirt that has been hanging on a hook for the last 9 months. Now, it might be shocking or disruptive, or uh, certainly it will be unsightly, but I think I owe it to you, the viewing and listening audience, a real glimpse at how we actually show up when we're actually doing work and not doing training somewhere where we're all dressed up in our Sunday best, or doing a consulting project where we also try not to look like people that eat out of trash cans. So we'll do one show, pull the curtain back, let you see the studio the way it really is. You will be underwhelmed, but hey, if it spawns one random act of kindness, I think it's worth it. So there are four types or four randomly kind things that I would love to see people do. And all you really have to do is send me an email and tell me that you did one of these three things. Uh, I'm not going to ask for a receipt. I just want to see if anybody takes it upon themselves to do one of these three things to move us forward ever so slightly as a profession. One of those, if you live in a state, one of the 14, possibly 15 states with an property and evidence association, and you're not a member, join that organization. That's one randomly kind thing that you can do both for yourself and for your agency and for your industry that will make a difference. So if you've been on the sidelines or I don't like groups, well, I'm pretty antisocial myself, but it's worth it. I promise you. So join as a new member. If there was an organization that you weren't part of before, like let's say you're sitting somewhere in Missouri and you aren't a part of an association, pick up the phone, get on the interwebs, call MAPE, join MAPE. If you're not weren't a member before and you become one, we'll call that a random act of kindness and just let us know. The second option, let's say you're already a member of one of these associations, or you might be in a state where they don't have an association. If you make a charitable donation to one of these 501c3s that are more than deserving of your patronage, if you send them a charitable donation, let us know. I think that would be cool. All of these state associations need your support, even the big ones. Cape out in California and PEEF in Florida. Everyone has been impacted by the pandemic. Everyone has been impacted at the finance level and at the participation level. So it doesn't matter which association, help them out. Give them some operating capital. Doesn't matter the amount. We just want to see if people will do it. And then the third way to do it, if you don't want to invest the $3, hopefully more, in a charitable donation, you're already a member, volunteer to serve on the board. And if you haven't volunteered to serve on the board, or if you don't want to volunteer to serve on the board, volunteer to serve somewhere. Participate, engage. If you will do one of those three things, I said four, I didn't count. It's actually three. One of those three randomly kind things to support your state association, we'll do the next episode of this particular podcast, and we will pull back the curtain. It'll be the behind the scenes episode of the Evidence Show, which is a show about evidence. So I didn't promise you anything big. I mean, if I gave you something worthwhile, it wouldn't really be randomly kind, would it? Uh, so no gift cards. We like to give away gift cards sometimes, but not for randomly kind things. All right. So the last thing we want to do before we wrap up, and we will give this an incredible amount of time, but everything you never wanted to know about evidence management. So if you have a question, something that you're curious about, an evidence related topic, doesn't matter as long as it has something to do with the wheelhouse of this show. Uh, Now's the time to ask it. Go ahead and type it in the question window, and we'll try to answer it. Between myself and James, who is following along, uh, you know, now would be the time to type those in. Now, this is where that tree falling in the forest experience comes to fruition because I see the names of people on there, and I'm pretty sure that somebody in that group might have a question. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you want to ask it, doesn't mean you necessarily feel comfortable with it, but you know, please, please ask a question because this looks really, really awkward if we don't. Now, I will say a couple things. Um, we're also, before we move on, we'd also love to do more agency spotlights on this show. James is passionate about that. We would love to maybe have someone not from California. I mean, we're happy to do California episodes. I'll go to California pretty much any time of the year. In fact, we'll be there working on a project here soon, and I'm looking forward to the 72-degree weather in San Diego, regardless of what it is here. So, we'd love to go to Florida, do something in Florida. So, have a question. Ooh, this is a good one. So, in James, if you're able, you want to type in the little notes and share. What do you do with items which have lost the chain of custody? That's a great question. And it really depends on how much of that chain of custody is lost and the type of case that you are dealing with. So take both of those things in mind, or keep both of those things in mind when we discuss this. But one of the important things about evidence, and I'll just give that answer right here, so I can handle that one. Um, One of the fundamental principles of evidence is chain of custody. Chain of custody is that thing that allows us to testify to that particular item's value as evidence. With no chain of custody, that item, let's say it is a water bottle cap, if I use this water bottle cap in a murder, which I don't plan on doing, um, but it's evidence. So we package it away. You can't just have any little water bottle cap that you produce in court. It's got to be the same water bottle cap. Chain of custody proves that this is the water bottle cap used in the murder. Now, we might be able to create that link forensically through blood or tissue or DNA analysis. It needs to still contain that same substance on that little bottle cap. We have to be able to prove a couple of things about that item. One, that that's the real actual item, that that is the real deal. It is authentic. But we also have to be able to prove through chain of custody that this item hasn't been tampered with, that no one could have come in and switched out this water bottle cap for another water bottle cap. So, for that reason, when we lose chain of custody, really we lose the value of that evidence almost entirely. And I will give you an example. In most property rooms across the country, there is a pile of tire irons and four-way, you know, jacks, all kinds of just pieces of garbage, maybe old car stereos, where the label is fallen off and you don't have the chain of custody, you don't have any information to document that item. I would say, generally speaking, that that item has lost almost all of its value as evidence because you can't prove, one, that that is the actual item tied to that case. Two, you can't prove the history, the custody of that item. You can't prove or even establish, much less attest to, the fact that that item hasn't been tampered with. So when you've got those two conditions, when you've got an item that is no longer no longer possesses chain of custody, it no longer has value as evidence. Because of those reasons, most of the time my recommendation is some type of administrative memo where you can dispose of that item. Now, there are a lot of different permutations, so don't just take what I'm telling you here on the interweb and throw all that stuff away. It still needs to be entered into the system. You need to reestablish the chain of custody of that item somewhere. It's dead for court. I mean, any competent attorney would destroy that evidence on chain of custody alone. That's why chain of custody is so important. Uh, but we still need to do the right thing with it. We still need to document that it existed at some point. You might be able to piece together a chain of custody. You might be able to find chain of custody that was missing. So it's not always appropriate to just go straight to a disposition. I would wait until you've done a full inventory of your evidence vault before I really administratively dispose of anything like that, because you're going to find things that you can create loose associations with. They probably don't still have the value that they would if they were needed for court, but there's probably still some limited merit in keeping those items. So, Bree, I hope that answers that question. If not, uh, email either me or James at evidencemanagement.com. You can even email info at evidencemanagement.com. We'll both get it. Or Shawn or Jay Nally or S. Henderson. I think mine's right there at the bottom of the screen. So use that one first. So let's move on. We have a couple more questions. And James, yeah, James has another great suggestion here before we move to the next question. Man, I wish you weren't working today, James. Write a follow-up report, and either a follow-up report or a memo, but explain how you believe that that chain of custody was corrupted. Was it data loss? Was it a file? Was it paper files? Was it packaging chain of custody? Was it labeling chain of custody? Try to establish as much as you can about that. Uh, but If it's just one item, you might be able to salvage the other items. If it's all items in the case, you got a world of hurt. And your chief needs to know that that kind of thing happens. It might not be your fault. It might not have been happen or it might not have happened on your watch, but it is certainly reason to make a chief or a chief executive or a sheriff think more critically about their operations and exactly what they're responsible for as a chief executive. So, got a couple more. Best way to dispose of bicycles? That's a great question. Um, at this particular agency, they're unable to donate them because of liability issues. That would have been my first answer. I wish I'd stopped reading the question after donate. Uh, Pretty much what you're doing is probably the best thing to do with it. Scrapyard or donate. I'm not a huge fan of sending, and this is personal, this is my personal opinion, and it really kind of depends on the volume. If you can't donate a bicycle to a charitable organization that can be reused and repurposed, that's probably the best thing to do with them because somebody else gets some utility out of them. But I'm not a huge fan of auctions. And most of your larger, especially your online auctions, don't really do bicycles anymore because they've got 1 kajillion bicycles that they can't sell. I don't want to be responsible for selling a bicycle. I don't want to waste it is a waste of time. I mean, I don't want to invest the time that it would take to get $15 for a bicycle that's going to be placed in the general fund of the municipality that I work at. That's not going to yield, and not that it's a selfish thing, but it's not worth it. So we would recommend, yeah, recycling, scrapping, donating, either something altruistic or something that is quick and gets it out of your vault. So, got one question. Interested in new evidence supervisor training. Um, Not going to disclose any location information. I will tell you this, and I'm not going to use your name because we will allow you to remain anonymous. But James and I are working something or on something in 2022 that we think is going to be real cool. It's going to be unlike anything that exists for advanced. We want to have an experience for the experienced. We want a place for people to go that have been around the block. That sitting in our training class, as much as we would love to have you there, is probably doesn't hold the value that it would have when you first got started. But I would sign up for our mailing list and pay attention to what we've got coming down the pike because we're gonna have something cool in 2021. But I can't really. It's not really right because it was James's idea, so he should be the one that tells you about it. Uh, so let's see. What software do most evidence rooms use for managing the evidence, or which do you see as the best? Well, that's a great question. I would say, generally speaking, the best software for managing evidence is it's going to be an evidence management system. Now, there are a couple of key players in that market. One of them keeps the lights on for me, Tracker Products. I would really encourage you to talk to them and give them a shout. They will be more than happy to take your call and more than happy to show you their software. And I know because of a relationship with them that a few months from now, a year from now, that software is going to look an order of magnitude different than it does before. And it can already take care of everything you needed to take care of, but it's going to get cooler. And I mean, not that evidence management software is cool or sexy, but just trust me on that one. Pick up the phone, give them a call. I try to remain as agnostic as possible to where I can teach classes. I mean, there are basically two. I mean, there are two major software vendors out there for evidence managers. There's Tracker, it's File on Queue. There's other kind of players out there that do the same thing, but I'm biased, so I'm look at all of them, Make your own decision. The most important thing that you have to keep in mind is that you need a system that's going to meet your needs and is going to make you more sustainable, make you more efficient, and make you more effective. So talk to the folks that are waiting to talk to you right now. Go to the website. You've got one at the beginning, trackerproducts.com. Give them a call. Uh, I think that that's the kind of thing that, you know, and go back and watch a couple of our podcasts related to automation. You should have a checklist when you're searching for evidence management software. You should have a checklist of what you need out of a system and the things that you need to improve upon in your particular evidence vault. And take that list, compare it to what we've kind of established as the Evidence Management Institute, what we believe is legitimately this is what you need out of a software system, and then see, does that meet my needs? And if what you find meets your needs and your department is willing to pay for it, that's the one you should go for. Uh, so hopefully that answers your question. It also helps me remain, although I'm biased, not just hawking one particular product. It's a fine line. We'll walk it the way we can, but give them a call. They would love to hear from you. Um, and James wants me to talk about he is paying attention. He's just working. The reason that I advocate for an evidence management system like the ones that Tracker sells, a standalone evidence management system that's not part of an ad hoc RMS system or not part of, I mean, evidence management systems are designed and intended to automate evidence rooms and provide workflow and automation for the work that you do as an evidence custodian. That's not what an RMS is. A records management system is great at managing records. Evidence management, probably not so much. So if you're looking in that direction, make sure that it meets your needs. And if you don't know exactly what those needs are, we've got a lot of resources online. We've got several kind of webinars and podcasts that we do. I know that Tracker Products also has a lot of educational and training material that's pretty unbiased. I mean, they're willing to just tell you, hey, this is what to look for. If somebody else does it better, go with them. And that's kind of our thought too. I mean, we work together, and that's just, we think transparency is the absolute best path forward. Uh, but a records management system is great at running records. The same way that, you know, a CAD system is great at dispatching calls. When they start to add on other things, not so much. All right. Well, those are the only questions that I saw. If you've got more, you just didn't want to write them down. And we're kind of running out of time too. Um, I appreciate you being here. Again, we were gone for a couple of weeks when we thought we were going to be here. We're going to go ahead and not be able to do the November episode. So that will be canceled forthwith because I'm going to be on a beach in Cozumel, Mexico. So I apologize for canceling it, but can't do it. So have a great week. We'll see you. Oh wait, let me fast forward. And I'll tell you when we'll see you next time on the Evidence Show. Let me run that through. Our next show in December is going to be about drugs, not taking them, not using them, not doing anything inappropriate with drugs. It's literally going to be about drugs. And there's a couple of cool things that we want to talk about. I think we're going to try to have somebody on that will give us some insight into different or alternative measures or alternative paths for dealing with drugs, especially small quantities of drugs. We think that'll be cool. I'm going to try to do a little factory tour that I've got in the works for a company that does some stuff related to drugs that I think will be cool. Um, but that's December on the Evidence Show. And that will be December 16th. The Yuletide edition will also be the drug episode. That will be broadcast live at 2 p.m. Central Standard or Daylight Time. Yeah, I don't even know the difference between those two things, but it'll be one or the other. December 16th, 2 p.m. Whatever 2 p.m. is Central Time, that's when we'll be on the air. We would love to have you there. Love to have you back. If you got questions, give us a holler. Thank you for being here. And I'm going to hit the little red button and say goodbye. So have a great week.